Hello everyone, welcome to the Centrics United BU series. I'm here today with special guest Marc Swafford. Marc, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah, so tell me just kind of your story, just from the beginning. What is your story?
Let's see, born in Portland, Oregon, 50 years ago. Two incredible folks. Grew up in a musical family and a medically based, with a medically based background. What else? Just set up right to be a musician from the get-go. My dad was a guitar and banjo player. Ma's still a guitar and violin and viola player. So, yeah. My brother's been my drummer and been my drummer for 28 years. So, yeah, just kind of in the blood. And grew up here in Hamilton and started hitting the road probably around 93 out to the northwest, and essentially doing what I still do now, which is live performance. Awesome. You know, it's my favorite part of the music world is just getting out there and doing it. So,
that's awesome. Yeah. What was that first experience like? You know you have a talent for music. You know you're gifted at it. And then what was the moment where you're like, I want to share this with people?
Well, I don't know that I thought I was that gifted, or I thought I was. I played, and I was going to do it anyway, and it's still down to that, is that this is what I would be doing anyway, and so why not get out there and share it, and at some point in time you go, okay, well, it's probably, at some point what you need to be doing. Early on, especially the Portland days, being, good Lord, anywhere from 17 to 19 years old. In fact, I went back and forth every 3 months, and I was probably pretty awful.
Okay.
No, I played. I used to use a prosthetic and put a slide on the thumb, a metal slide, and so I'd do a lap steel style with open chords and which a lot of technique that I still use today. And some of my favorite music is the what I call slide slur music, where it's in betweens. You're playing in betweens, and of course, being a lifelong lover of jazz, I love the slur of the bass, the in between chords, the cascading in between your standards into your flats and sharps.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's
awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. So. Obviously, there's the disability with the arm, right?
Sure.
What, if you wouldn't mind talking about it?
Yeah, I was in a car accident when I was 15 months old. My folks were working in Pocatello, and we were living out in McCammon, where my brother would be born. Actually, I think he hadn't quite been born yet, but that's where he would be born. And my mother and I had a single car rollover. In an area that had become notorious for wrecks.
Sure.
And it, found out later that it had been they put the 4-lane and the median through a Shoshone burial ground that hadn't been sanctified. And I'm one of 2 of 8 people to have survived. So
wow.
6 other people died there at this almost exact spot until they sanctified it.
Sure.
And pretty heavy workings. Lucky to be here at all.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and so the perseverance it takes to be like, okay, I that had this accident, tragedy, sure, but then to be inspired by music and to continue playing it. Like, what were kind of the challenges for? Traditionally, it would be very difficult to play an instrument with one arm. We take our limbs for granted, And
well, but what I remind people is that it's something I can't tell anybody else. Is that's for other people. Is that by the time I started playing at 16 or 17 years old, I had, I was up and running a week after I had the accident. Sure. So I had my compensation level was incredible compared to others, and when I picked up the guitar, I was probably just as, I don't know that it was that much steeper, although I would try to find people to kind of give me an idea how to be taught, and In fact, I remember very, very vividly my folks taking continuing lessons, and their teacher was incredible. And I asked, can I join in? And they flat told me, no, you got to do your own thing.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
But I already was doing my own thing, and
Sure.
I think they knew that. And so of course it's tough.
Yeah.
And of course it's harder. But I don't think, I have no idea.
Sure.
I know as much about the two-armed world as everybody knows about my world.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't pretend to be any more challenged than they are.
Sure.
They could have it way rougher.
Absolutely.
So,
And I've heard your music before, and it's unbelievable. You're so very talented. And so with that talent, where has that taken you? What are some projects you've kind of worked on, or performances you've done?
Well, my heart and soul is with my little brother and my band, Muhammad Waldi, which we've had for about 28 years, which is a pretty extreme form of heavy metal. It's just continuing. It's continuing on. But I've always been a great lover, like I said, of jazz and old blues, bluegrass. So about 10 years ago, I stopped being able to work alongside of playing, and I decided to make playing my work, and I hit the road, and I've been heading out to the central coast of California, and back and forth to LA and San Francisco for, like I said, about a decade. Sure. Doing my form of fusion guitar, which encompasses the rest of these loves. And it's just been phenomenal. It's not only been very satisfying musically and helping me write new music, but it's made me famous through the internet and through just work. And now,
Sure.
coming from essentially nowhere to going somewhere like that,
Very cool.
Yeah, it's exploded, and then, very grateful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, with some of that fame, what would you say some of the biggest accomplishments you've ever achieved?
Biggest accomplishments. Just keeping on the road. Mm-hmm. Keeping on the road for 10 years is a pretty big accomplishment in
Absolutely.
itself.
Yeah.
The way, especially down there in California, it's so expensive.
Sure.
To have survived for a decade, at least part of the year, in San Francisco for a year, down in San Luis Obispo County, which is one of the most expensive areas.
Sure.
To be able to even exist is a pretty big achievement in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I've playing with countless people too, just aligning with great musicians and other great artists is always the biggest treat.
I was just gonna kind of ask about more like recording and things like that. Have you put out any like recorded projects out there before?
I have, and I was mentioning my buddy Dan Hill. He was an engineer in Pomona and LA.
Wow.
Back in the early '80s, and just a master of the layering techniques. And so when I got to know him for about 3 or 4 years before he passed, we put some tracks out there. You can look up Squirrel Haven if you can remember that.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what he called his studio. Because it was it was nuts.
Sure.
But and we went by Out of the Gate, and that was, he calls himself Dantan. I've gone by Southpaw for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm. That's actually so sick. That's a cool name. I love that.
Well, it's my original nickname. I played baseball and box too. So I mean,
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's there you're called.
Sure.
Good old lefty.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is some recording out there. My brother and I have a lot of it's video though. We've, in fact, my brother's a great engineer, but that's one of my biggest challenges is trying to sit and do things over and over again, or, and I try to be open to the challenge, but I get bored quick.
Sure. Yeah.
I want changes quick. I want things to move. Let's get moving. Let's get it on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, both ways of thinking about it. Where my brother is he's a lot more patient than I am, for one, especially with the technology.
Sure.
And so I think we got the best of both worlds. We just have to learn how to use it. And we've been, like I said, we've been playing 28 years. We have a scattering of recordings, and it's everybody else doing it for us. Huh. Please let us record you because we want something.
Sure.
You won't do it, So, and but it's harder and harder to find, unless it's video.
Sure.
Yeah,
right.
There's plenty of video of us up and doing our thing.
So for your music, who would you say is someone that inspires you? Like maybe some bigger artists, or even some more smaller artists that inspire your playing a lot.
How much time you got?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's you can look around. In fact, everywhere I play and everything I do is kind of a tribute to people that inspire me. And you can look around at the albums on the walls, and
sure.
Everybody involved are great guitar players and great musicians. Period. See on the end they're starting in the A's, of course, with AC/DC, Angus Young.
Sure.
One of the first people I ever saw to play with one hand doing Thunderstruck, the intro for Thunderstruck.
Interesting.
And I'd already been playing for probably 5 or so years flat steel style, and when I saw him do that, it's like I don't want this anymore. I want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And of course I've been a Cream nut. My buddy of mine's dad turned me on to Cream when I was probably 17 or so.
Sure.
And so what all the guys do, it's never just about guitar. I'm a guitar player for the most part, but I love the whole sound and what the guitar does with the rhythm section. It just can't be beat.
ECCENTRIC's United's tagline is to be you. For the people watching this right now, how would you, through your story, kind of explain or inspire others to be themselves in doing what they love to do?
Why would you want to be anybody else?
Sure.
At what point in time is anybody else's? Why are you sidelining your own desires and your own ideas for something that somebody else has done, for regurgitation? But that's commonplace. That's a kind of a human, I call it a plague, but more just it's just commonplace.
Sure.
It's easy. It's the easy way to go, and it's rewarded. It's people who copycat are rewarded in the musical world or anywhere else because it works.
Right.
You find a formula that works, you tag on to it, and away you go.
Yeah.
To have the cojones, as I like to say, or to have the courage to do something outside of that, that takes a certain person. And I've done both. I've been a copycat when you're young, especially musically. For myself, I just wanted to sound like Cream. I just wanted to sound like just like that.
Sure.
Or who else? I could pick one and wanted to segment that, but along the way, that wasn't enough. I realized that I also have a natural, through an inability, I have an ability to have my own voice. I always had my own voice. No matter what I did, it sounded like me.
Yeah.
And so that's, I in essence had to step up. It wasn't a disability. It was a further ability.
Right.
And especially for those people who have had more adversity, I really hope that they can take that, take each of our personal story, and because everybody's got one, and form your own. Form your own magic.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was so well put and well said, and that you basically explained the reason why I started this whole thing in the first place.
Good.
For sure. Is there anything you would like to plug or have people directed to?
Oh, I'm always. I just had a gal do the same thing. She was videoing for something, and anybody. Anything from the Wounded Warriors to Shriners to people that with disabilities, I'm an advocate for, because I know, like we were talking about, the struggles, no matter whether it's playing or just living. At Shriners helped me so much. I had to have 13 surgeries by the time I was probably 13 or so, 13 or 14, and Shriners took care of that. Wounded Warriors, I just happened to know vets and know people who were promoting them, and so I they need special attention.
Right.
Absolutely. But otherwise, man, get to your school music programs, help with the arts. And that doesn't just necessarily mean music and painting and anything like that. It means automotive, I'm heavy on the trades too, the trade schools. I always push for heavier interest in hands-on practical knowledge, which is something that I wish that I would have had along the way.
Sure.
In some regards, but I probably would have blown it off and played guitar.
Sure.
The guitar is way more fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. It doesn't always bring the paycheck that
sure
welding does or something, but
yeah. You made it work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, over a period of years, you
right.
bet. Anything we do long enough and love enough, put love into it. That's what I advocate for. But if you love something, don't be afraid, and be fearless.
Yeah.
Be fearless in everything we do. That's the greatest advocacy I can give.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. Appreciate
my pleasure.
it. Yeah, absolutely. That was sick. Awesome.